Hey, good morning, guys. Today's January 9th, day 9 of Wise Up. Thanks for joining us today. Wise Up, it's a daily dose of wisdom from the book of Proverbs for your daily life, and I'm glad, again, that you joined us. What do you think whenever you hear somebody say the word, I told you so? When somebody says, I told you so, how does that make you feel? Also, how does it make you feel whenever you say that to someone else? Maybe kind of puffs you up a little bit. Right? So you can feel different ways towards that one little saying, I told you so. Well, we're looking at this verse today in chapter 9, verses 7 and 8. And here's what it says. Do not reprove a scoffer, or he will hate you. Reprove a wise man, and he will love you. Check this out. So, back in the day, you may remember the story of like Boaz and Ruth, right? Back in the day, this is really how it used to go. When somebody had an issue, they had a problem, they had a big question, and they needed sorted out. They needed wise counsel. There were these men, there were these people that sat at the front gate to the city, and what would you do? You would go to the front gate, you would go to where they were, the wise men, the council, whatever they were. Picture some old guys sitting in like rocking chairs, except they didn't have rocking chairs, okay? So they were sitting at the front gate, and you would come up to them and you would bring your problem to them. You'd bring the situation, and they would give you advice. They would tell you what you ought to do. And if you're familiar with the story of Ruth, you know that that's exactly what Boaz does, right? And if you're not familiar with it, I encourage you to go check it out. But that's what they would go do, right? Especially if two people had a disagreement, they would go and bring it before the men at the gate, the people at the gate. They'd bring it and they'd tell them what to do, and then it was that person's choice to do it or not, right? But more often than not, they would do it. Now, when somebody says, I told you so, or when you say that to somebody else, where does that come from? We're kind of looking at our verse today, right? Reproving a scoffer or reproving a wise man. Think about that. When somebody says, I told you so, how do you respond? Not how do you feel, but how do you respond? Sometimes we feel like we have everything under control, right? And we're doing everything the right way. We're doing all that. We got a finger in front of the camera. We're doing everything right? And we kind of feel like we got it going on. And then we mess something up. And somebody says, well, I told you should have done it that way. You think you've got it all down. You think you know everything. But I told you so. You should have done it this way, but you didn't listen. Right? Doesn't that stink? But how do you respond when you face criticism? That's the question. Think about that for a second. How do you respond to criticism? Now, maybe a question deeper is, how do you respond to criticism when you know it's true? Maybe that's a totally different question altogether that we need to think about. Sometimes it can be embarrassing, or we can choose to get embarrassed, be upset, get offended, whatever, or what can we do? We can choose to find the truth in it. We can choose to use that as constructive criticism, because we all need it, and grow from that situation. So here's our proverb. I just told it, but I'm going to read it again. Do not reprove a scoffer, and he will hate you. Reprove a wise man, and he, the wise man, will love you. Well, who's a scoffer? A scoffer is somebody who, whenever you correct or you reprove or whatever that may be, they get defensive. They get upset. They don't like it. They don't listen. They disagree. They argue, right? Because they have to be right, and if you have a problem with them doing things their way, that's how they respond. Right? But is the truth still the truth? Think about this, what the word says. A scoffer will hate you, but a wise man will love you. How often are we a scoffer? How often are we the wise man? Do we value truth? So think about that as we talked just the other morning about things that wisdom hates and things that wisdom loves. One of those things that wisdom loves is the truth. Are we people who seek the truth? So, when we are criticized, that's kind of a harsh word, when we're corrected, when we are rebuked, when somebody says, I told you so, how do we respond to that? How are you reflecting God's image in your response to that. A wise person honors, seeks, and loves the truth, right? I'll close with this. A wise man never feels the need to tell someone, I told you so, and certainly never minds hearing it. In a way, a wise man welcomes that. Seek the truth today. Soak it up. Surround yourself with it, just like we talked about yesterday, and live in God's truth. I encourage you to read the rest of the chapter, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Have an awesome day. God bless.